Moo. Hey guys, Mr. Droma here. So it is official. Honkai Star Rail has finally become a horror game. Not because of the animations, not because of the lore, but because... Okay, actually slightly because of the animations, because holy mongas, we do have our first unstoppable AoE crowd control that pretty much needs almost no ramp up time compared to, for example, Ligus. Introducing Illwish Archlotus. So it does look like after the King Pom Pom last patch in 4.1, Honkai Star Rail is going to be going for the new boss in Anomaly Arbitration directly instead of making it to a Memory of Chaos boss. So this might be a constant going forward, combining both our brand new Anomaly Arbitration reset as, Mr. Anomaly, as well as a new boss all into one. So we will be going through the knights as per usual and then discuss Archlotus later on. Personally, I think she's pretty much one of my favorite bosses at HSR because, Jandas. So jumping straight into the knights over here, Knight 1, Knight 2, and Knight 3. For Knight 1, we are going to be facing the Rocking Rebel, the chicken boss fight, as well as an introduction to a brand new elite called the Joy Ascended. So for the debuff this time, it's going to be Confined, which is the exact same debuff as the current Anomaly Arbitration. So encouraging you to use your ultimate multiple times. Most DPS can get by with this exact same thing. For the new elite Joy Ascended, her base model is going to be that of the Ascended one or the Decaying Shadows. Also, holy... By the way, I'm not sure if you need to censor this, but don't zoom in like too much, okay? So Joy Ascended is going to be this brand new elite, which is also going to be appearing in our next upcoming Memory of Chaos 12 rotation, where she has the ability to split into two upon the first defeat, and then split into two again after that for each. So for a single elite, it will be into two, and then from those two, it will be into four. So there really is going to be 7 different enemies that you have to kill, and every single time you defeat them, you're going to be getting a little bit of punchlines, so it's definitely going to be suitable for your Elation DPS. So we do have access to Joy Ascended's new debuff, which is called the Paramount Bliss. This debuff will delay your action value a little bit similar to Yang, as well as losing your skill points if she hits you again if you do not use your basic attack to dispel Paramount Bliss. So anyone that will still have this debuff will suffer the AV delay as well as the skill point reduction when she casts her mini ultimate Euphoric Spiral, which is, pretty much somewhat of like an AoE attack that where she will keep using it for the base form as well as all the different clones that she's going to be summoning. So generally speaking, I would say that side 1 is relatively manageable. You can pretty much run a lot of different teams like Finon, Radio or even Acheron. Do try to have units that can do their basic attacks so that you can basically dispel this Paramount Bliss as well as generating the skill point for the rest of the team. And then for Knight 2, it's gonna be the classic Sparksicon. Slap on your Elation team over here, even though you technically can also use Elation in the first half because both the Chicken Elite as well as the Joy Ascended, they are also Elation Shield bosses. But I would say that Sparksicon definitely is gonna be one of the best matchups if you're gonna be running Elation as a whole, right? So for the first wave, you're gonna be facing the same old Azure Wing. So any quantum-based DPS, you do need to break him as soon as possible in order to not take that much of a damage. I would personally just go ahead and run my DHPT over here just to be extra safe. The ability is in fact going to be our new debuff where we will reduce the damage dealt by us as well as reducing the damage taken by us at the same time. So there is no way to play around this. It is pretty much just do 10% less damage and receive 10% less damage. So I might be potentially looking at some higher possibilities of running a sustainless clear if you're going to be going about that route over there, right? So for Elations, hyper carries like Archer, if you can do the Azure Ring, Sparksy main DPS, they're all going to be viable over here. So not as restrictive as I would say compared to the other 2 Knight 2s that we have previously. Also, if you want to use Remembrance over here, you could, but I would personally just save Remembrance for the very last boss, and that is going to be our Knight 3, good old classic MOC 12 Flame Reaver. Not the Apex Shadows version where he's untargetable, it is just the OG MOC Flame Reaver, so very, very straightforward. We also can see there's 2 new, not really new, variants of Azure Wing, which is going to be the Power Rangers guy, one being called the Dawn Lance and one being called the Blaze Weaver. So they are both respectively going to be not wanting to take any imaginary and fire damage, which is the exact same mechanic for Azure Wing, but Quantum, right? And then for the debuff, it's gonna be one of the more annoying debuffs, which is gonna be taunting. Just look out for the low stacks over here where you have the numbers. So you can run your Remembrance, the Herda Final, and then use for Flame Weaver back in the past. You can pretty much work over here as well. You might want to intentionally avoid any imaginary and fire DPS, specifically because of Wave 1's Dawn Lance as well as Blade Weaver. It is almost as if the game is telling me, do not use Silver Knight Sparks over here. There's literally 2 other stages. You can use them in any Elation rate up bosses, so just go ahead and use that over there, right? So that's pretty much gonna be Night 1, 2, and 3 relatively straightforward, and now I am just going to jump straight into Illwish Archlotus. So really quickly talking about the design of the Archlotus herself, I would say, number one, it really does remind me very similar to this thing called a pitcher plant. If my editor can just put a picture over here, where they are like a carnivorous plant that will like lure insects into like their little pitcher, which is filled with like stomach acids, and they will dissolve the insect to gain nutrients, which is kind of interesting. So she does also have a little bit of a symbol. It's like she's like almost like a Zerg unit. If you guys play StarCraft from back in those days, here are gonna be the claws, very big and very chunky, and I'm guessing these two are gonna be like her tentacles to like deal damage as well as to spread the parasites. For the actual unit herself, I actually have no idea who this is, so we're probably gonna be knowing way more in the future in the story. It could be the cult leader, which I'm guessing is probably going to be the highest likelihood, especially judging from the hair as well as the, you know, plot relevance to the story itself. Then from the back, it's like a big dump truck of a bag. Unfortunately, I can't really scroll up that much, but that is pretty much going to be designed very monotone on like red, black, white, a little bit mongas, and then, you know, you guys have seen the ultimate animation a little bit. It is going to be pretty scary, right? So that's pretty much it. First of all, the buffs this time for Anomaly Arbitration is going to be split into these 3 over here. First of which, Cathartic Applause is definitely going to be for your Elation unit, giving the additional 30% defense ignore for any ally target's Elation damage. So this will scale very nicely with Sparksy as well as Silver Knight, getting the 4-piece Magic Girls defense down, as well as their respective light cones, giving even more defense penetration. The additional 6 punch lines at the start of the turn also gives a lot of good utility for Silver Knight, especially because this allows Silver Wolf to cast ultimate almost instantly. Definitely one of the strongest teams if you're going to be running the very first buff. For the second buff, Devastating Sweep, this is definitely going to be for your break DPS, specifically Firefly. You know, she just got a Nova Flare, right? Definitely needs to give a little bit of a rate up. I'm not too sure how well is Boot Hill going to be able to do over here, but due to the infinite mob summons, I think it might be a little bit of a problem, though Rappa and even maybe perhaps Himiko might be able to cook decently well. So we'll see that on the live server. I didn't really do the full runs over here, but we'll just have a little bit of demonstration in the future, right? And then for the last buff, it's just going to be a very general buff for every single DPS, 40% damage as well as 20% res down. That is pretty much it. I would say, just generally speaking, not just for your random teams, for every single team, it is very important to kill the mobs as fast as possible in order to stack on your debuffs and prevent them applying the own damage buff, which will let Archlotus deal a significant amount of damage in the future. Now, moving on to the 2 debuffs, and yes, this time there's only going to be 2. Stability, which is going to be the first debuff just introduced for this patch, explained just now. It unironically actually hurts Remembrance, because for your Remembrance team, you would want to take more damage because that would generate more new buff for your characters. So there's pretty much no way to play around this, just accept the 10% less damage for 10% less damage taken. I would say sustainless runs might look pretty interesting, especially if you can full clear the mobs, which is what I'm going to be attempting later on. First try, I have not even tried this sustainless myself before, so if I fail, then, you know, it is what to do. And then for the confinement, it is going to be mainly cooking units who do not use their ultimates as much, specifically for units like Finon, but most units should be able to dispel this relatively quickly. So I would say overall, the debuffs this time are going to be very manageable, because there's no action very delayed like with Pom Pom, so, you know, Rest in Peace Sunday and Sparkle, as well as no energy regeneration debuffs. So with that out of the way, I can finally jump into Archlotus' specific mechanics. She is gonna be the next Elation Shill boss following Pom Pom, with her mechanic focusing on summoning a lot of mobs to try and turn you into a puppet, specifically for non-attacking units like your supports Sunday and Sparkle, or even like Bubbin, and your single target DPS where your supports do not attack whatsoever. The boss itself doesn't really have any forms of damage reduction like Pom Pom, so it is just going to be your raw damage, although we do have a little bit of a vulnerability debuff, which would definitely improve your overall damage. Aside from that, it is just going to be a simple two-phase boss, but we do have 3 waves for this fight, so it will be quite a while before you get there. So the first wave is going to be the usual monkey enemy, and then the second wave is just going to be a Joy Ascendant, just a single Joy Ascendant, and in the very last wave, you're finally going to be facing against Archlotus herself. So once you actually eventually reach Archlotus, you will start off by getting hit with 2 of your units having the parasitized debuff. I'm gonna just say Parasite, which is gonna be +2 for the first infliction, +2 at the start of your unit's turn, and -1 per attack or a damaging ultimate, and -1 more if you defeat the summon with said unit. So you do want to take a note for this defeat, or rather the kill on a unit, it has to be by the afflicted unit. So for example, if Black Swan has already cleared the debuff and Hyacinth still has 2 of her Parasite stacks, Black Swan's Arcana will not reduce the stacks for Hyacinth. So very, very important over here. So if you do manage to dispel the debuff, you will gain this crit damage buff known as Inverted Severance, and you become immune to being a puppet for a while, which is very, very good for any crit DPS and sub DPS. But more importantly, this immunity will be pretty important to try and prevent the boss's second phase ultimate, which is almost gonna be unstoppable as she slams the AoE crowd control, and the only way to get this immunity is by getting this Inverted Severance. Now, unfortunately, if you hit 6 out of 6 stacks of the Parasite at the end of your turn, not the start, you will transform into a quote-unquote puppet, which is pretty much a very similar effect to Outrage as well as Mind Control. So for hyper carry setups, this will be a little bit problematic, especially for non-attacking supports, so they will definitely transform into a puppet eventually, unless you can break the phase fast enough, right? So I would say for this particular debuff over here, whoever was actually unable to cleanse the debuff of a talent, likely because the other debuffs have taken up the cleanse stack. It is not stated that this is an undispellable in-game, unless I'm going to be mistaken, but for Silver Knight's global passive, it will actually dispel this immediately, because Silver Knight actually dispels every single crowd control effect, right? So that's pretty much going to be that. So the Parasite debuff as well as the puppets out of the way, here is going to be the rest of Archlotus' kit. So she does have a self-sustained attack, which is about 1% of the max HP, not that big, but if I get 1% this boss, then, you know, it is what it is. Also, this HP recovery is going to be directly proportionate to the number of units afflicted with Parasite. So if only Hyacinth has it over here, then she will only heal for 61,000. If both Hyacinth and Black Swan has it, then she's going to be healing for 120,000. And aside from that, she's going to be getting all of these summons, which is what ties towards this mechanic called Laughter's End. Every single one of these little summons, which just look kind of flowers, they will give bro a stack of damage boost via Wicked Green every single time they take a turn, and this is only dispelled if you hit 6 out of 6 Laughter's End. So for this specific buff or the mechanic, you have to kill 6 of her summons, which will then apply 1 stack for every single defeat to increase her damage taken for all targets, for herself as well as the rest of her summons, as well as removing the Wicked Green effect, which is basically the damage increase, making the remaining summons easier to deal with, and she is just going to be dealing way lesser damage for herself. And on top of that, for defeating each summon, you also gain 5 punchlines, much like a mini pom-pom, and they spawn at a much faster pace, so this is really, really good for Elation teams, but it is going to be worse for others, though you do have the vulnerability debuff at the 6 out of 6 defeats. Now, the reason why her summons are going to be so much faster is because as long as you do not dispel the Parasite debuff on your units, which is like I mentioned, right, all the different stacks is going to be shown at the start, this will mean that the summons actually come at the start of your unit's turn instead of her turn, right? So this will still take place even if Archlotus is going to be Winner's Broken, so unless everybody is going to be dispelled, the summons will never ever stop. Hence, with that being established, the overall gameplay loop for Archlotus is going to be pretty simple. Deal with the summons as soon as possible, a little bit similar to how you would play against True Sting as well as Calamity Boss. Apply a vulnerability debuff, and you do not want to get crowd control if it does hit 6 out of 6. But if you do, at least have a cleanse ready, like a Huan Huan, like a Soul Dragon, or a Silver Knight global passive, just in case it actually happens. Now, I would say once again, the cleanse itself, like for example, Huan Huan's talent, is going to be a little bit inconsistent because of the number of debuffs you're going to be receiving. And then moving on to phase 2 is pretty much almost the exact same, except that this time, all 4 of your units will get the Parasite debuff, so you literally cannot dodge this, and you have to end the boss as soon as possible, or you pretty much just attack all your units to try and dispel all of the buffs for each of them respectively. She also has this brand new ultimate move, which is going to be the Euphoric Embrace, where it will start with a charge, very similar to how King Pom Pom starts off with a charge as well. Now, during this charging state, it will take a roughly 53 action value to cast ultimate, which is actually really, really fast compared to, for example, let's just say Flame Reaver's charging state was like a lot slower. So the number of leeway that you actually actually have to defeat her within this time is pretty much almost impossible for most teams, and you cannot weakness break her during this state, much like a King Pom Pom. So you either kill Archlotus within 53 action value, or you just face 10 damage and prepare to cleanse if you cannot. And also this ultimate animation is like, whoa. So once you do get hit with this ultimate, if you do not have Silver Knight's global passive, then everybody that did not dispel their previous parasite debuff will instantly become puppets. So it can be extremely annoying. So you can see over here, when we do get hit by my entire team for my DOT team, my Kafka actually does in fact have the immunity, because like I mentioned, if you're able to dispel the very first buff, you do gain this personal buff which is called Inverted Severance, which will prevent any other crowd controls from happening, including the parasite debuff. So for the rest of the unit, because I didn't dispel them fast enough, they are pretty much going to alter into puppets. But because of the power of global passive, this is pretty much going to be a non-issue. So that is pretty much going to be that for Bro's kit. So generally speaking, some bonus attacks you guys can try for yourself. Due to the innate mob summons, I'm not too sure if the Herda can cook this because there's no ice weakness, but by right, a Nexa Herda should be pretty suitable here, waiting for the Light Sword to find out, because both of them attack very frequently, Tribute attacks very frequently, and DHP also attacks very frequently, right? And then for any team running hyper carry supports, specifically units that do not attack, like Sunday, Sparkle, Bronya, and Bubbin, they definitely need to try either doing sustainers to just clear as fast as possible, or you need to prepare a very good cleanser to just dispel all of these puppet debuffs, because for these non-attacking supports, there's almost no way that you will not become a puppet. That being said, when it comes to a sustainers run, I think this could be pretty viable, especially because the boss barely actually attacks you on top of the 10% damage reduction, so you could try this with Break, with Elation, or even the traditional crit DPS like Phyton as well as Archer. One last thing, which is immunity to crowd control, is going to be really big here. So Silver Knight as well as Phyton can have a very big advantage to dodge the puppet mechanic completely, especially Silver Knight with a global passive. So you have this one free chance, assuming you can't kill Archlotus before the phase 2 ultimate. So for some of the performances I tried on full auto, we have a E2 Firefly coming as 4 cycle. It shows 5 over here, but I was intentionally stalling just to get the ultimate animation. We have a E0 DOT 6 cycle. When sustain is really strong here, pretty much almost permanently at full HP, so there was no risk of dying, but the cleanse wasn't really coming in fast enough. And lastly, I tried with a E6 full E6 as one remembers team for my Plight mode, 80 action value, 0 cycling, but this is once again going to be Plight mode, so kill me. Alright, hey guys, so this is going to be the live demonstration for our 3 different night runs. We are just going to be sticking with something relatively a little bit different from the showcases just now. Team 1 is going to be the classic Elation flagship with a Hue. You could try to run this sustainers if you have higher idle investments, for example, like a E2 Silver Knight with the proper speed tuning, right? E1 Yao Guang, E2 Sparksy. I think sustainers here will be definitely viable, but be warned because there's going to be 2 waves. Joy Ascendant does a really decent chunk of damage. It is very hard to basically dodge the Rocking Rebel's first hit, so players running sustainers do beware for a little bit over here, right? So I do is actually gonna be a sustainers Well Yang. I'm not too sure how viable this is gonna be, because when we go into the Starfield, depending on how often we get our extra turns with Yao Yang, I think we might be in a bit of a pickle. We'll just see how much this edge. We're limit testing, right? I'm basically just going to limit test if we can actually get off a sustainless clear. And then this is going to be the OG DOT with a DHPT as the sustain instead of running Hue, because we're going to be giving Hue to our Elation, right? And then for the unit build and everything, I'll just showcase them at the very end of the run, right? So for the very first boss fight, we are just going to jump straight into our Elation flagship. This is going to be done with a E2 S1 Zero Wolf, E0 S1 Sparksy, E0 S1 Yao Guang, as well as a E0 S1 Hue. So we are just gonna jump right in. Very first part is honestly very straightforward. He's gonna hit us, which is fine, and then my Yao Guang is gonna be able to pop her ultimate. This will trigger the guy becoming angry, but honestly it doesn't really change that much. So we are just gonna pop this, and we should be getting our additional punch lines right here. Okay, chicken guy is gonna get dispelled. Okay, then we are just gonna immediately come back down. Very good, and then we're just gonna go. Yeah, we're just gonna go. When after this, we're just gonna be constantly using our okay, for this particular moment, using our skill is not gonna make too much sense. We're just gonna be going for the basic attack. Then after this, when this buff needs to refresh, we'll just dump off our skill points, ideally for Hue's personal skill usage, so that she can charge her ultimate a little bit faster, right? then this is pretty much gonna be another Elation skill for Spark Saber or Silver Wolf. I would say as of right now, since we are gonna be on this topic of in the future when we do get ourselves the Elation sustain, I can see the growth potential for Elation is just gonna be a lot higher, because as of where it stands right now, E2 Silver Wolf actually cannot consistently get herself the 240 hidden NMR, which is definitely going to be a slight pain in the ass, because, you know, if we do not have the access to the Elation Shill environment, it is going to be quite annoying, right? Because right now, even though we get a bit of a chicken giving us some punch lines, it is still not anywhere near enough to get us to 240, namely just because I would say they designed the E2 Silver Wolf, not with whoever in mind, but with whoever the Elation sustain is going to be. So if I were to be a guessing man, then the Elation sustain is probably going to be generating enough punch lines for us to essentially hit that 240 threshold, right? Or at least that is what I'm going to be hoping is going to happen, right? So we're just going to take a little bit of a heal, take a little bit of a hit. Okay, he's going to start doing his rapid rouse or whatever. And you can see over here, we are definitely nowhere near enough 240 NMR, which it kind of is what it is, especially with a team without a sustainless run. Yao Guan is just going to be popping over the skill over here, and then the Aha skill will just come in and get us the additional damage, right? Our Yao Guan gets ultimate, which is very nice. See if we need to save up this ultimate for the next wave, because if it's going to be possible, then there really isn't a need for me to cast my Yao Guan ultimate right now, because there's a good chance that my Silver Wolf will just do enough damage to get rid of all of them right here. Okay, very nice, 1.38 million. Okay, I am actually gonna be slightly underestimating Bro's actual toughness, or rather his HP. Slam all of our skill points from Sparksy. Boom, 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 goes back down. This does in fact get us to the second wave immediately, which means that I can immediately pop over my Yao Guan ultimate so that we can apply our debuffs, as well as just getting in our damage to be as high as possible right here, right? Okay, we get all the bounces. Very good. And then this is gonna be the Poleaxe Roar. Huan is just once again gonna use her skill later on. Okay, yeah, we do the 120, so we're gonna be getting the extra turn. Then Huan is just gonna be casting her skill so that we can get ourselves the ultimate as fast as possible. This does in fact clear the very first ascendant, which is gonna be quite chill. Alright, and when this hits us, we are just gonna pop off Huan ultimate right now. And then once Yao Guan goes for the basic, it's gonna be up to Silver Wolf to go ahead at it again, right? So Yao Guan pop over the basic in the middle, and then we are just gonna pop, followed by our next Elation skill. Maybe this would give me enough punch lines for 240, because it is 82 ahas over here, and we are gonna be defeating the 2 Joy Ascendant as well as the chickens. So it could be a decent amount of punch lines. 198. 131 AV is going to be my next Silver Wolf turn, so I think we are definitely going to be able to hit 240, because the Joy Ascendant does give me a substantial amount of punch lines, if I can say so myself, right? Especially with the Sparksicle. At this point, I can kind of just do this, so the bounce will definitely get rid of the chicken, and then we should be hitting close to 240, if not straight up at 240 right here, right? So Bomb is going to come, Sword is going to come, and then we're just going to slap over our AoE damage. 240, absolutely fantastic. So we get all the full value for our E2. But at this point, it's just going to be Giga Overkill. So that is pretty much the team featuring E2 Silver Wolf. Again, right now, the biggest potential issue they are going to be facing with Silver Wolf is that her E2 does not gain a full value if you're not going to be in a shield environment, right? So without a shield environment, I'm guessing when the Elation sustain is going to come out, the problem will kind of fix itself. But for now, we have the shield environment, which could basically get us the 240 relatively easily, right? Okay, for this team, I'm honestly just completely limit testing because I've never tried this for myself. But we will try a sustainless Well Yang on full E0 support as well as the E6 S1 well to see if we actually get it. Unfortunately, if I wanted to change this, I would actually consider just running RMC for the additional extra very advanced as well as the freeze, just for us to get a little bit more over here, right? Frankly speaking, we don't really have to wait for well to go, because I do want to cast my Sparkle Ultimate since this is just going to be tying towards Sunday's personal turn, right? So we're going to pop this, gets us the buff. Sunday gives us the crit rate buff. Alright, we are going to get ourselves Ceredra stacks, apply our ultimate. Ceredra is going to be getting 6 out of 6, and then Sunday gives us the full buff over here, which means we should be getting another ultimate coming immediately, so we're just going to go for it. That's going to be 1, and that's going to be 2, and then we're just going to action value delay again, see if we are going to be able to stall the chicken to as high or rather as much as possible. Don't think we are going to be dealing quite enough damage over here. Okay, absolutely gonna be not quite enough. Okay, it does appear that Sustainless is definitely gonna be a little bit out of the question. So as you guys can see, I think if we are gonna be able to min-max this a little bit more, maybe we try running like a hyper speed Sunday to give them a little bit more speed. But as of where it stands, running the slower Sunday and the Sparkle as it is, definitely very, very high amount of damage that we're receiving right here. We are gonna be running a little bit low on skill points, so I'm just gonna be popping over my Ceridra ultimate. Gets us the refund. Okay, Sunday is gonna be able to cast Open our skill. I do believe at this point it should carry forward in the next wave. So this is 1 million. We can instantly pop over our skill. Delay Sparkle for as long as we can. I am very concerned to see how much we are gonna be able to survive this, but I don't think Well Yang can hold out much longer. Okay, we definitely cannot hold out much longer. So TLDR, Sustainers on this team, even with the stability buff, or rather debuff, depending on how you call it, it is definitely not gonna be enough to get us a Sustainers player, right? Okay, at this point, I'm just like purely out of curiosity. I wanna just see how far we can go before we get absolutely destroyed. Okay, so we are just gonna be absolutely destroyed. So that is pretty much our Sustainers limit testing. We are just gonna come back into a proper sustain, and then I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright, so we did a little bit of a switcheroo where I'm just going to be giving DHPT to bro because like I mentioned at the start of the video, the sustain pressure for this side is definitely going to be quite annoying. So DHPT getting the shield, getting the Soul Dragon, hitting the sub-view, it is definitely going to be pretty nice. And I just basically gave my DOG team the highest team, which is the only other version 3 DPS or other version 3 support remaining or sustain remaining. So that is pretty much going to be that. For this part of the video, it is actually going to be a little bit draggy considering the fact that we are gonna be running this with a sustain, so it will definitely be slower. We'll get a Soul Dragon first, pops this, and then I'm just gonna be slapping over Ceridra's ultimate, and then Well Yang, we can then pop our ultimate, giving us a 6 out of 6 as well as a little bit more energy for Ceridra. Alright, she's gonna hit us a little bit, which is gonna be completely fine. Gets us the action very advanced, and we are gonna be getting the double hit over here. Damage is definitely not gonna be anywhere close compared to the Sustainless run, which is gonna be as expected. Then Ceridra is just gonna... Okay, Ceridra will just definitely constantly pop on a skill, right? No questions asked. And then Sparkle is just gonna be my Well Yang speed, which is gonna blah 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 blah, right? Okay, DHPD continuously gets this. We do get off the break at 6 out of 6, so we get the maximum amount of damage over here. Zero Wing is going to get the recovery, which is fine. A little bit unfortunate that we didn't hit Sparkle, but it's going to be okay. I always want to activate Welt's turn right before Sparkle's ultimate so that we can get our DDD value. And then this is going to push us down a little bit. Dragon is going to come in. This is going to come in. Then this is going to be 6 out of 6. So when my Sparkle is going to be getting her turn, she's pretty much going to be guaranteeing us the kill here, right? Because the bird is just not going to be having too much HP left. DHPD goes in for the basic, and then when Sparkle pulls out, we should be easily getting this wave right here, right? Okay, I guess this game just absolutely hates me, so it is what it is. We will first open up with our ult. We'll let the Soul Dragon give us that, and then we'll save this ultimate after we get transported into the subfield just to deal a little bit more damage, right? So we are just gonna pop open the ultimate right now, and then Well Yang is just going to cast a skill, and then this is gonna get a little bit more of their resistances down a little bit. Alright, gets us a little bit more. Sparkle is gonna pull back up. Dragon is gonna go back down on the subfield. We are just gonna hit the guy that gives us res pad so we can do a little bit more damage. Well Yang here is gonna be completely fine. Little bit annoying that the minions are not gonna be weak to imaginary, so it is what it is. Get a little bit more damage. Soul Dragon goes in. I basically want to continuously never stop buffing my skills on Well Yang so that I can get as many of those bounces as possible, and I'll just leave everything on the field to DHPD to do the damage, right? So there's gonna be a double hit over there. Just slap this on 17% AoE damage. Very good. Last 8% over here, so let's hit this for 4 out of 4. Okay, and then Sparkle pulls me back up. When bro recovers, he actually did not die, which is kind of crazy. Saridra is just gonna buff Well Yang one last time, and then this should be easily getting us a break from the domain, which is very good. 100% damage taken. So this is pretty much just gonna be the exact same fight you fought in MOC. So really not too big of a difference, if I can say so myself. Sparkle is gonna pull us back up. We are gonna cast our skill, get open the ultimate. Dragon is gonna come back up. I'm just gonna be able to activate my Saridra out right here, or her skill. Gets the dragon in, and then we are gonna get the Saridra ultimate in. See how much damage we are gonna be able to do here. Gets a little bit more. Alright, some AoE. That's gonna be quite nice. I am actually a little bit concerned that we are not... Holy... Okay, never mind. My concerns were absolutely unfounded. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage. 3 million coming in from Well Yang. Slaps open our ultimate for another 1.6 million, which is absolutely insane. And then once my Sparksy pulls back, okay, at this point my DHP is just gonna cast a skill so I can get my ultimate a little bit faster. Dragon goes back down, and then when Sparksy, or rather Spark, pulls me up, this should be a kill, right? This should be a kill. Okay, this game is just absolutely fantastic. I'm just gonna pull in. Okay, I'm just gonna... Okay. This sounds really weird. We will pull in Saridra because this has the highest amount of action value at once. And my Sparkle is going to be coming next. So I'm literally just going to do this. Because I am absolutely sure that when Sparkle pulls my Well Yang, this is going to be phase 2. Right? So boop this. Okay, absolutely fantastic. So we are going to pop open our ultimate first. And then when bro casts the AoE, she chooses Well Yang. We are gonna instantly apply our domain expansion subfield. And then we are gonna pop open our dragon. Get a little bit of rest pen over there. That is gonna be quite good. And then Well Yang is just gonna be, you know, just doing Well Yang things, right? So we don't really have to worry about it too much. There's a good amount of damage. And then we are just gonna push them back once again with our ultimate, because of the power of energy regeneration rope. This time our domain expansion actually is gonna be lasting a much shorter time, if I can say so myself. Definitely because of the MOC damage buff as well. Okay, unfortunately I have to cast my ultimate over here without getting the DDD value because of enough skill points. So we are just permanently spamming out. Holy, that is a pretty insane amount of damage. And then when Sparkle pulls me back up, we should be getting our clear right here, right? Getting a little bit of hit is gonna be fine, and then we're just gonna bop. Okay, he's gonna spit me back out. That is gonna give me the additional action value delay, as well as the vulnerability debuff. Then there's gonna be AoE. DHPT, we're just gonna be popping in the basic over here. Honestly, we could have just went for the skill. Don't think it would have changed too much there. And this will be the double skill. Holy shit. Whoa. Holy shit. Yeah, I may get it as a short and then like adding like a boom sound effect or something, but that will be our Well Yang main DPS E6 rather 5 cycle dispatch with a sustain. Everyone else on this team is gonna be at a full E0 investment. So that's pretty much it. I just kind of want to see how bro's performance is gonna be as a main DPS, right? So as expected from my Nova Flare review, even though bro is gonna be E6, it's not really the end all be all because the environment is just really just not that suitable for him. You could give bro a little bit more vertical investments, like for example, the gears are definitely not the best, right? We could have a little bit more idle investment for Spargo as well as Saridra, maybe even E2 DHPD, but I will digress. And I will basically see you guys in the last night before we get into the Anomaly Arbitration King Archlotus, right? So for the DOT team, okay, I am a fat-fingered uncle. So for the DOT team, you essentially will play this pretty chill. I would say for this Hyacinth, it is actually going to be an E6 Hyacinth that I just kind of slapped on for my remembrance speed run for all my tactics. I'm just going to let this kind of play out by itself because frankly speaking, there's not a lot of ways that we can manipulate the outcome of this result. So I don't think we're going to be needing to intervene that much anyways. Just open all of our skills and I'll just commentate very, very chillly as I open up my 3 AM supper, which is going to be a salty peanut butter barbell protein bar. I'm not even sure if you're watching this video. If you are, thank you for watching. This is pretty much gonna be my last early access video before we see the actual launch of 4.2 next week. All right. Anyways, Hyacinth is gonna be able to come back in with a will for 695. Our Zero Wings cousins, which is gonna be, what was the name again? I think it was Dawn Lens as well as Blaze Weaver, if my naming was not mistaken. Honestly, they are dying pretty fast considering that our entire DOT team is purely gonna be an E0, right? Everyone in this team is gonna be E0 except for the E6 Hyacinth, which aside from the speed buff, she's not really doing that much, at least in terms of personal damage. So I would say this is relatively a pretty decent showcase for a DOT team. If you are gonna be able to get yourself a Huan over here, and you do not need to use Huan for Elation team, I actually think that Huan might actually be even better than the E6 Hyacinth, purely because of the tech buff as well as the energy regeneration, making our rotations a lot faster, right? So that is going to be a 98 AV 0 cycle on wave 1. We are just going to be able to slap on all of our damage. You see, E6 Hyacinth, aside from the speed boost, is just really not going to be too important. Okay, maybe if I would have manual that, I would have saved Kava's ultimate after Bro casted his domain expansion, where he summons the clones, so that we can do a little bit more damage. But it is what it is. Okay, that was definitely gonna be a slight misplay from the AI. I would have definitely prioritized my Hyacinth skill over there. So I think from this point, let's just... I'm not sure why the AI prioritized E6 Huan, or rather E6 Hya. Maybe they know the power of E6 Hya. It is what it is. So we're just gonna take over here, manually speaking, right now. We actually do want to try to get this ultimate, because if the clones do not die here, that will be a little bit annoying, because we actually did not get off a single clear on the clone, which is really, really unfortunate. My combo is just 2 action value away from getting rid of the clone. So super unfortunate speed tuning over there. If I just saved my Kava's ultimate, that would have definitely been the double kill. So our rotations here kind of got scuffed pretty fucking hard, right? So we are just gonna pop this. The 6 stacks of taunting is gonna activate, so we are gonna... He's not going to summon the clones, right? He is not going to summon the clones. So since he's not going to be summoning the clones, I am just going to be able to activate this ultimate immediately. Guess there's no choice saving, since this is already going to be a bad rotation in terms of the AoE, right? Because he's not going to be summoning the clones here. So now that that is going to be out of the way, we are definitely going to be facing a little bit of skill point problem, which is why I don't really want to use AI anymore. Hyacinth should be purely focusing on the basic attack, so I can generate all of my ultimates for bro, right? Okay, this is actually really, really good. So we are going to apply our Hyacinth out into a Kafka out. And then when Kafka out activates, we are going to be able to get ourselves 1 stack of the follow-up attack. And then Hya is then going to activate her last ultimate, which should be giving us a substantial amount of damage. 1.1 million is absolutely fucking disgusting. Power bonus skill to apply vulnerability. Alright, that is going to be really, really good. Okay, I do not want him to activate taunting, because I need to kill the clones, right? So because of that, we are just gonna pop a skill on the side. Okay, very, very good. So I couldn't fully get rid of that last stack, because even DOT damage does in fact count as taunting, so there's not too much that we could have done over there. But I'm pretty sure with taunting, since he's going to be getting quite a lot of action very advanced, we are actually generating a lot of damage, because giving him more turns actually means that the DOT will proc faster, right? So this is actually really, really good. He has a lot of attacks, and then Moon is going to be at 9% HP, which is going to be fine. And then I kind of want to see if I can save this for the next wave, where he spawns in the rest of his goons. So hopefully Kafka over here can get us the kill. Okay, Hyacinth, you are just gonna basic. Kafka pops a basic follow-up. Fantastic. I am an absolute fucking casual. Please do not copy that. I am supposed to wait for him to summon the clones, so do not copy that. Do not copy that. That's gonna be my bad. Then we're just gonna stab this over here. He activates the summoning of the clones. And then we're just going to be able to apply all of our DOTs now, right? We do have quite a lot of skill points, so I'm just going to pop on a heal. Alright. Gets quite a bit of AoE here. I feel that for the taunting portion against Flame Weaver, definitely quite annoying, but because we do deal enough damage, it's not going to be as scary. If you couldn't clear the clones there, it is definitely going to be a pretty substantial damage amount. But since we are able to do it, then it is going to be fine. Ideally, I want to try to just not touch bro at all, so that I can try to get rid of all of the clones as much as I can. Because if he does hit the 6 stacks of taunting, he will activate the ultimate immediately. which is gonna be pretty fucking scary. Also, that was definitely gonna be a misclick. I did not intend to actually click that because I was just spamming spacebar, so that is gonna be done. So, okay, we are at 3 stacks of taunting. I hope that with this, we are able to get ourselves a clear here. Okay. This is pretty much gonna be the last hit. I can't really prevent bro from spawning in anymore. So we're just gonna basic. Gets a follow-up attack. He pops that, and then when this comes in, we should be able to get our Kaga ultimate. Doesn't really deal that much damage because we really removed majority of bro's stacks. And then one last high stance basic. Actually, no, I'm just gonna pop on a skill. Get us a ultimate. One last try. Also, if I didn't misplay that just now, this could have definitely been a 2 cycle, right? But I 100% misplayed that. I think like 2 or 3 times here, so I'm so sorry DOT main for like low-key slandering DOT, but definitely 2 cycle worthy. Cost investment for this was pretty much going to be full E0 S1 DOT with a E6 highest, right? Because I used my E6 highest to clear the content a little bit faster for early access, right? Okay, with all that being said and done, we can now finally get into the king check. I'm just gonna slap on the AHA instance. We're just gonna run the AHA flagship, and then we're just gonna be seeing how they are gonna be doing against this particular boss right here. For a sustainless clear, I'll probably leave it up for like a separate showcase because I don't really want to do too much sustainless in case I get caught for being unrelatable. So we are just gonna slap this back in. The entrance for the... Yep, take them down quickly. It doesn't really matter. We're definitely going to take them down right now. Pops open the ultimate. Alright, first 20 punchline is going to trigger. Dream Jolt Gorilla, honestly, it's not going to be too big of a deal even if you don't have a shield. Because bro is pretty much definitely going to be dying here the moment we are going to be done with him, right? So boom, 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 boom. Very, very good. We should be able to instantly get out the winner's break the moment our AHA instant goes. So when you're just gonna be able to get yourself a basic attack because I really have enough for the ultimate. Pops open the ultimate for a little bit of energy regeneration. He does hit Hue, which is fine. Summons the goons. AHA instant is gonna spawn in over here. So if the dogs die, we do get a little bit more bleed, which is quite good. Alright, increase all allies crit damage. That is very, very nice. And then Silver Knight comes in for 1 million. Alright, the dogs also die. We don't really need to care about the dogs whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I would say this sustainers run actually looks really, really manageable considering the fact that the power of E2 Silver is not going to be underestimated, if I can say so myself, right? Because this will definitely kill, right? So our first EBA from Silver, this is the free 120 EBA. This will 100% clear here. We are just going to slam everything right there. Okay, so we'll let him spawn first. Because I want him to break up into more pieces so my Sparcy can actually gain more value from the AoE, right? Because Sparcy is actually going to be full AoE. So this pops in. Not quite enough. Okay, I would say hopefully my Yao Guan basic can actually kill this guy. That is extremely, extremely unlucky. You know what? If this oh, that was just really, really unlucky. If I could have break that guy over there, then my Sparcy armor could have been saved for a little bit, right? So it is what it is. Okay, we do get hit a little bit here, which is honestly a kind of scary amount of damage, if I can say so myself. But with our final Silver Wolf EBA at 192 stacks, should be getting a relatively decent clear. Didn't get our, we actually did not get our 240 hidden MMR, which is really, really unfortunate. But the next rotation definitely will, because we do have 101 punchlines, which is absolutely absurd. So we are finally gonna be facing up against Paramount Bliss. I'm just gonna slap everything on right now. In fact, that was gonna be... There we go. Pop open our Silver Wolf ultimate. So, fun fact, you can actually pop open Yao Guang's ultimate, and before Yao Guang casts off her Elation skills, if you have enough for Silver Wolf out, you can just squeeze in between so they can get off an enhanced Elation skill instead of the normal hidden MMR Elation skill, right? So this is just gonna be us doing raw damage. So raw damage slams all in 3.5 million. And then we are just gonna be going in again because that was in fact the E2 activating for the extra turn. Bro is already gonna be at 28% HP, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think we are also definitely gonna be able to see the 240 hidden MMR. So that's gonna be really, really good. Sparcy comes in, gets us a little bit more skill point generation. When is just gonna be able to pop over the ultimate, gets us a little bit more over here. And Bro is definitely gonna be spawning her goons. Alright, Bro will spawn on goons, which is gonna be fine. Silver Wolf turn over here will and should get us into phase 2, which means that the 2 plants that just spawned will be giving us free damage as well as free punchlines. Right? Okay, very, very good. So this is gonna be free punchline. Let me see the debuff stacks. Okay, unfortunately the debuff does not stack. Okay. Okay, so with that out of the way, our Heart Instant is gonna trigger. I want to wait for my unit's turn to begin so that I can just do a little bit more AoE damage with Sparksy, right? So Huehue's turn is going to begin over here. And then when Sparksy turn begin, that is when I cast my ultimate. Because after that, I can basically get myself more spawns. More spawns means that we are able to basically slap this on. Okay, our state actually got dispelled over there, which is just a little bit unfortunate. So we'll just go for the bop. Very, very nice. And then this will give me 120 hidden MMR afterwards. Alright, very, very nice. So this is gonna be a double Silver Wolf hit. So our first wave should be able to just full clear all of the mobs. For 4.6 million, very, very good. And this is just gonna be giving us stacks of vulnerability. Yep, that's gonna be our first stack of vulnerability right there, which is very nice. And then we're just gonna do everything all over again. This time our damage is going to be even higher. 7% HP remaining. Our Young is just going to go for the basic. And the moment we get our ultimate, we'll pop our ultimate. And even before Huan could say when, this is going to be a relatively straightforward zero cycle running the Elation flagship. I would say if you do not have the E2 Silver Wolf, getting ourselves a zero cycle is probably still going to be very, very doable. Maybe one cycle is just going to be missing that little bit. But in terms of damage over here, we are definitely more than capable of like having quite a bit of overflow, if I can say so myself, right? So with that, that is gonna be coming to the end of our Anomaly Arbitration showcase, as well as the brand new early access boss, taking a look at our elusive, what is bro's name again? Illwish Archlotus, right? What a banger of a name itself. So generally speaking, so just to kind of show you guys the overall builds. Alright, so these are gonna be their respective costs. E2 as 1 Silver Wolf, E0 as 1 Sparksy, E0 as 1 Yao Guang, E0 as 1 Huan. This is gonna be our E6 as 5 well. Okay, I'm just gonna skip the Reddits because it doesn't really matter. E0 as 1 Saridra, E0 as 0 Sparkle, E0 as 1 DHPT, E0 as 1 Black Swan, E0 as 1 Kafka. Okay, actually E0 as 0 because we're running tutorial. We can't get S5 because there's limited copies in the server, so it is what it is. E0 as 1 Hysolence, E6 as 1 Hyacinth, and then we have a breaker here, which is going to be E2 as 1 that I showcased for the B rolls, right? And this is going to be EMC. With that, we've come to the end of our boss early access. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be looking forward to the live server when the Anomaly Arbitration is going to reset, and we're going to be having an absolutely insane amount of content from an insane amount of units, right? So over there is going to be giant. Join this code, join the use code POKE with 10% gamer subs. All the best of college rules. See you guys next time. Take care.